The world was holding its breath as Earth's leaders gathered in the heart of New York City. The United Nations headquarters had been transformed into a symbol of unprecedented hope, with the bright blue flags of Earth proudly displayed in every corner. The air was thick with anticipation, for today would mark the beginning of a new era for humanity, a time of peace, collaboration, and growth. The summit, convened to sign a global peace agreement, had drawn attention not only from every nation on Earth, but from representatives of several alien races. The invitation to the Galactic Summit had been a breakthrough, offering Earth the chance to enter a community that had long watched from the stars. No one expected the aliens to extend this olive branch lightly, and many on Earth viewed it as the culmination of years of diplomacy, struggle, and perseverance. The peace agreement, when signed, would formally end the final remnants of war that had once torn nations apart. The delegation of extraterrestrial representatives was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The Androsian High Council, the largest and most powerful faction in the galaxy, had arrived in grand fashion. 8 towering beings who resembled regal, armored figures with an air of unmatched superiority. They were the epitome of intergalactic influence. Accompanying them were the Vakoth and Aneri, 2 alien species known for their advanced technology and territorial prowess. As the representatives took their seats at the table, the human leaders felt the weight of history upon their shoulders. This was their chance to prove that Earth was ready to join the broader galactic community. The Earth delegates made their presentation with poise and pride, offering the peace agreement as a tangible symbol of humanity's resolve to end conflict and embrace cooperation. The United Nations Secretary-General, a composed figure, addressed the gathered assembly. "We stand at the precipice of a new beginning," she declared. "Let this peace agreement be the foundation upon which we build not just a better Earth, but a better galaxy. Let this moment be the start of an intergalactic partnership where we stand united, not as separate worlds, but as one species among many." The Androsians, however, were not so easily impressed. Their representative, a towering figure clad in shimmering silver armor, leaned forward with an air of almost palpable disdain. His voice echoed across the chamber, slow and deliberate. "The Androsian High Council has observed your species for centuries," he began, his tone colder than the space between stars. "You have taken your first steps toward peace, yes, but you are no more ready to join the Galactic Council than a child is ready to sit at the table of kings." A ripple of tension spread through the room. The human delegates exchanged glances, shocked by the bluntness of the statement. "We do not deny your potential," the Androsian continued, "but you have not earned the right to sit among us. There are many trials to face before Earth can join the galactic order. You have much to prove." The sting of the words cut deeper than any weapon could. The Vakoth and Aneri representatives exchanged knowing glances, their lips curling into smug smiles. They, too, had their doubts about humanity's readiness. This wasn't just a diplomatic setback. It was a slap in the face. The sense of pride that had built up over centuries of human perseverance suddenly felt fragile, deflated in a single instant. Yet it was in this very moment, this moment of dismissal, that the seed of defiance was planted. Humanity had long been underestimated, but now they had an undeniable spark of determination. They would not let this humiliation stand. No longer would they beg for a place among the stars. If the galaxy was to respect Earth, they would have to see the strength of humankind, not through the lens of diplomacy, but through the sheer force of will. As the Androsian representatives' laughter echoed throughout the room, something began to shift in the human delegation. Earth was no longer going to simply wait for acceptance. A new resolve began to take root, one that would soon grow into something far more powerful than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. The sting of the Androsians' dismissal reverberated through the hearts of Earth's leaders. The grand ceremony of peace that had promised unity now felt hollow. The human delegates filed out of the United Nations building, their heads held high but their spirits seething with a quiet fury. The alien visitors, unbothered by the growing tension, departed without another glance back. They had already made their decision. Humanity wasn't ready to be part of the galaxy's great family. Back in their chambers, the leaders of Earth's nations gathered for a private meeting. The peace agreement that had seemed so monumental just hours earlier now felt like a distant memory. The cold rejection still hung in the air, a reminder that the galaxy viewed Earth as little more than a fragile speck in the vastness of space. Are we really going to let them treat us like this? The French ambassador, a middle-aged woman with sharp features, asked, her voice brimming with disbelief. They have no idea what humanity is capable of. The British Prime Minister, a seasoned negotiator, leaned forward, his gaze steely. They've underestimated us. We may have signed the treaty, but this is far from over. They think we're weak, that we're insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And that. He paused, his expression darkening. That is a mistake they will soon regret. Silence fell over the room as each leader digested the weight of his words. No one spoke for a long while. It was clear that this wasn't just about peace anymore. It was about dignity, respect, and proving to the universe that humanity would not bow to anyone. The Secretary General, the same woman who had delivered the speech earlier, rose from her chair. Her eyes, once filled with hope, were now cold with resolve. If they won't grant us a place at their table, then we will show them we deserve it. We will show them that humanity will not be dismissed. Her voice rang with authority, and for the first time since the summit had begun, the leaders felt a surge of unity. This wasn't just about sitting at the galactic table. It was about survival. About proving that Earth wasn't to be ignored. The decision was swift. Behind closed doors, the world's brightest minds, military leaders, scientists, engineers were called into action. A covert operation was set in motion. Project Ascendant, as it would come to be known, was humanity's response to the challenge that had been thrown down by the Androsian High Council. The project was to remain a secret, and its purpose was clear: to demonstrate to the galaxy that Earth was capable of far more than anyone, especially the Androsians, could imagine. The team of engineers and military tacticians quickly set to work. They would need to reverse engineer the alien technology they had collected over the years. They had bits and pieces of alien spacecraft, advanced weaponry, and sophisticated technologies that humanity had barely begun to understand. But Earth had something the Androsians did not: ingenuity, resourcefulness, a relentless drive to improve and adapt. Humanity's knack for overcoming the impossible would be their greatest asset. Days turned into weeks as work on the project accelerated. In hidden military bases and high-tech labs across the globe, humanity's brightest began to forge a new path. They weren't just building weapons. They were creating something far more potent: a fleet. A fleet that would show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. As the project gained momentum, a strange sense of unity settled across the planet. Nations that had once been divided by conflict now found themselves working toward a singular goal. The dismissal of their potential had struck a chord deep within the collective consciousness of Earth. They were no longer divided by borders or ideologies. They were united by one undeniable truth: humanity had been underestimated, and they would not allow it to stand. And in the shadows, where the work was taking place, the first signs of Earth's response began to take shape. The ships, once pieces of alien designs, were now something new: human, powerful, unstoppable. This was only the beginning. Earth would rise to the challenge, and the universe would soon learn that humanity was a force that should never have been dismissed. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Project Ascendant surged forward with an intensity that was felt all around the globe. Humanity's brightest minds were united in their mission to reverse engineer alien technology and craft a fleet that would send a message the galaxy would never forget. The secret operation had no time for hesitation or doubt. Every moment spent in the shadows brought humanity closer to their moment of reckoning. In hidden military bunkers and off-the-grid laboratories, Earth's finest scientists worked around the clock. They were unraveling the mysteries of the alien technology that had been collected from various encounters. A small but growing fleet of warships began to take form, each one a fusion of Earth's best engineering and newly discovered alien capabilities. The ships were sleek, far more advanced than anything Earth had ever seen. Their designs were adapted from fragments of alien vessels, but they were unmistakably human in their ingenuity. Advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons that could pierce through the toughest shields, and cloaking technologies that made their ships nearly invisible. Everything was coming together, and each success added fuel to the fire. The first test of humanity's newly crafted fleet came sooner than expected. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a faint blip appeared on the radar. A small ship, far beyond Earth's orbit. A routine patrol mission sent up to monitor the outer reaches of the solar system had intercepted an unidentified object. At first, it was dismissed as a meteor or stray debris, but soon, the object's course became more deliberate. It wasn't natural. It was an alien ship, one that had slipped past Earth's defenses, unnoticed until it was too late. The crew of Earth's most advanced warship, Valor, was the first to respond. The Valor had been designed for stealth and speed, a vessel meant to operate without detection in hostile environments. Its hull was coated with a composite material made from both human and alien technology, rendering it nearly invisible to the naked eye. The ship's captain, a seasoned veteran named Captain Tarkin, was the one to give the orders. "We're not taking any chances," she said, her voice steady. "Lock onto that ship's coordinates. Prepare for immediate engagement. I don't care what it is, but we'll show them Earth's not to be trifled with." The Valor slipped into the shadows of deep space, its engines humming softly as it closed the gap between them and the unknown vessel. As it drew closer, Tarkin's crew activated the cloaking systems, rendering the Valor completely invisible to external sensors. Seconds later, the unknown ship came into view, an unmarked vessel with sleek, jagged lines and a dark, almost metallic sheen. It was clearly alien, yet it was not a ship humanity had ever encountered before. The silence of deep space was broken by the soft hum of the Valor's energy cannons charging. "Target locked," one of the officers called from the weapons console. "Ready to fire on your mark, Captain." Tarkin's gaze remained fixed on the alien ship. They had no idea who this ship belonged to or what its intentions were. But in that moment, she knew one thing with certainty. Earth was done being underestimated. The galaxy had thought humanity was weak, that they could dismiss them without consequence. Now, humanity was ready to show its strength. "Fire," Captain Tarkin ordered. A brilliant beam of concentrated energy shot forth from the Valor, striking the alien ship with pinpoint precision. The alien vessel reeled from the impact, its shields flaring as the force of the blast caused it to veer off course. The damage was significant, but not fatal. The Valor moved in for another strike. "What's the status of their ship?" Tarkin asked, her eyes narrowing as she tracked the alien vessel's movements. The officer at the radar console's fingers flew over the controls. "They're trying to compensate for the damage. It's heavily damaged, but the propulsion systems are still online. They're attempting to flee." "Not on my watch," Tarkin muttered under her breath. She'd spent too many years watching humanity struggle for survival, for respect, to let a single alien ship mock their new strength. She gave the order, and another blast rang out. This time, the energy beam struck the ship's main engine, sending it spiraling out of control. The alien ship careened into the depths of space, its trajectory spiraling away from Earth, severely disabled. The Valor followed for a moment, ensuring the alien vessel wasn't going to be a threat. Then, after what felt like an eternity, Tarkin ordered her crew to disengage. The mission had been a success, and it had sent a clear message across the stars. Earth was no longer a world to be ignored. As the Valor returned to Earth, its crew felt a collective sense of achievement. The galaxy had just received a message it would never forget. Humanity was ready, and no one would be able to dismiss them again. Back on Earth, hidden away from the eyes of the galaxy, the Project Ascendant fleet was readying for something even bigger. The first strike had been made, and Earth had just proven that they would fight for their place in the stars. The victory of the Valor was a spark, but the true fire was about to ignite. Across Earth, as word of the successful strike spread, the tension between humanity and the galactic powers reached its breaking point. The Androsian High Council and their allies, the Vakoth and Unari, were no longer merely indifferent. They were furious. They had underestimated humanity once, and now their position in the galaxy was under threat. The time for diplomatic mockery was over. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when a species fought for its place among the stars. The first signs of retaliation came in the form of an unmistakable fleet, massive ships, some several kilometers long, that appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were part of the Androsian Armada, a force unparalleled in strength and firepower. Their arrival was swift and sudden, a demonstration of the Androsian resolve to squash this uprising before it could gain momentum. But Earth's newly formed military had been anticipating such a move, and the stage was set. Humanity's newly crafted fleet, still small but rapidly growing, moved into position, ready for its first true test. The ships, still fresh from the hidden laboratories, had undergone rigorous modifications. They were faster, more powerful, and far more deadly than the Androsians could have ever predicted. Captain Lara Tarkin stood at the helm of the Valor, the flagship of Earth's fledgling fleet, her gaze fixed on the incoming enemy. "Deploy all ships," she commanded. "Prepare for battle." Her voice was the calm in the storm. She had faced death countless times, but never with stakes so high. This was no longer just a test of strength. It was a test of humanity's future. Earth's new fleet, numbering only a dozen ships, faced the might of a coalition that controlled entire star systems. But the humans had one thing the Androsians did not: the unshakable resolve to survive, to rise above the odds and fight for their place among the stars. The battle that ensued was like nothing the galaxy had seen before. The Androsian fleet was overwhelming in size and strength, but Earth's ships had the advantage of surprise, speed, and innovation. The human ships, designed for agility, darted through the void like predatory shadows, striking at weak points in the Androsian formations. Each vessel carried new weapons, plasma cannons that could melt through the toughest of shields, kinetic projectiles that impacted with the force of a star's explosion, and quantum torpedoes that disrupted enemy energy fields. For the first time, the Androsians were forced to fight defensively. Their ships were larger, but they weren't built for the kind of rapid, pinpoint strikes that Earth's fleet had mastered. The Valor led the charge, its energy shields flaring brightly as it tore through an Androsian battlecruiser's defenses. A ripple of shock ran through the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just holding its own, it was winning. But the fight came at a cost. One of Earth's ships, a sleek vessel known as the Phoenix, took a direct hit from a retaliatory blast and spiraled out of control. The crew, led by Commander Zane, was forced to abandon ship. The Phoenix disintegrated in a fiery explosion, a tragic reminder of the sacrifices humanity was willing to make. Yet, even in the face of loss, the remaining ships pressed on, their resolve hardening with every passing moment. The Androsians, initially confident in their superiority, began to falter. For the first time, they realized that this wasn't just a rebellion, it was a revolution. Earth wasn't a backward species that could be wiped out with ease. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the battle reached its climax, the remaining Androsian fleet was forced to retreat. The damage to their armada was significant. The space around Earth was littered with the debris of shattered ships, and the victory, though hard won, was clear. The galaxy would no longer view humanity as weak. The Androsians had learned a harsh lesson, one they would not soon forget. But this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and the Androsians were only one faction. Earth had proven its might, but now it needed to prepare for the next phase of the conflict. There would be no time to rest. The universe had just learned of humanity's capabilities, and soon more would come to challenge Earth's place in the stars. Captain Tarkin stood at the bridge of the Valor, watching the retreating alien fleet disappear into the darkness of space. She knew the victory was only temporary, but it was enough to send a message. Humanity would not be dismissed. Not ever again. The victory in space sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Androsian fleet had been humbled, but the galaxy's other powers were not so easily dissuaded. The Vakoth and Anari, though cautious after Earth's unexpected display of strength, had not yet fully grasped the significance of humanity's rebellion. For them, the fight for dominance was far from over. Behind the scenes, a new, darker plan was being forged, one designed not to crush Earth outright, but to break its spirit. Back on Earth, the news of victory was met with both celebration and quiet apprehension. The global leaders knew that humanity's first real confrontation with the galaxy's powers was only a prelude to something far greater. Though they had successfully defended their world, they had also become a target. The stars had noticed Earth, and the powers of the galaxy would not let such a defiant species threaten the balance they had long maintained. It was at a covert military meeting in a hidden underground base that the full scope of the challenge ahead began to take shape. The leaders of Earth's new coalition, a united front of military and scientific minds, convened to assess the next steps. The room was bathed in low light, and the hum of advanced technology filled the air. Maps of star systems flickered on screens, highlighting key strategic locations that the galaxy's powers would likely target. I don't need to tell you this, General Alan Brooks, one of Earth's most respected military commanders, began. The Androsians won't forget this defeat. We've just drawn a line in the sand. Now, they're going to do everything they can to erase it. He paced in front of a holographic display showing the Androsian retreat. The flickering blue map highlighted Earth's current defenses, but the general's face betrayed a deep concern. They'll come at us harder this time, Brooks continued. We've shown them our strength, but they'll come with everything they've got. And it won't just be them. The Vakoth are already mobilizing, and the Anari. They've been silently watching us for years. If they decide to join forces, we won't be able to hold them off indefinitely with the fleet we have. The silence in the room was thick. Earth had come so far, had clawed its way to a position of respect among the stars. But now, humanity was standing at the precipice of a far more dangerous game. The stakes were no longer just about proving they were worthy. Earth's very survival was on the line. We can't just defend ourselves. We need to strike first, said Dr. Miyamuro, a brilliant scientist who had been instrumental in the development of Earth's new technologies. Our fleet, though small, has the advantage of agility. We've developed enough weaponry to cripple larger fleets if we hit them before they can mobilize. We need to hit their supply lines, destroy their shipyards, take out their support structures before they can retaliate. The room buzzed with energy as the implications of her words sank in. The idea of Earth going on the offensive was a radical one, but given the threats looming on the horizon, it was a risk they couldn't afford to ignore. It's time to show the galaxy that we won't just sit back and be prey, General Brooks said. We've got to make them fear us. Make them understand that Earth will fight tooth and nail to defend itself. Every planet that stands with us, every ally we can forge will be vital. If we wait too long, it'll be too late. In the weeks that followed, Earth's fleet was bolstered with new ships, faster, more deadly than before, and capable of striking at the heart of galactic powers. More and more nations contributed their resources, setting aside their differences to fight as one unified front. The first wave of humanity's counter-offensive was set in motion. The first target, a strategic Vakoth shipyard on the outskirts of the Krylon Belt, deep in Vakoth-controlled space. If Earth could destroy it, they would cripple the Vakoth's ability to produce warships. It was a bold move, but one that could tip the balance in humanity's favor. Captain Lara Tarkin stood on the bridge of the Valor, staring at the holographic map of the Vakoth system. The silence in the command room was broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. "We're going in," she said, her voice steady. "We hit hard, we hit fast. No mercy. This is Earth's message to the galaxy. We're not afraid to fight back." With a flick of her hand, the command was given. The fleet surged forward, preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. The time for hesitation was over. Earth had proven it was capable of defending itself, but now it was time to show the galaxy that it had the will and strength to take the fight to them. As Earth's ships silently cut through the darkness of space, they carried with them the hopes and fears of a species determined to secure its place in the stars. The silence of deep space was broken by the hum of Earth's newly expanded fleet, cutting through the void toward the heart of Vykoth space. Captain Lara Tarkin stood at the command console of the Valor, her eyes trained on the holographic map displaying the route to the Vykoth shipyard. The mission ahead was risky, but the stakes could not have been higher. If they succeeded, Earth would cripple the Vykoth's war production capabilities, weakening one of the most dangerous powers in the galaxy. But failure would be disastrous. Tarkin's thoughts were interrupted as her communications officer, Lieutenant Eris, spoke up. "Captain, we're nearing the outer perimeter of the Krylon belt. Vykoth forces are picking up on our approach. They'll be prepared for us soon." Tarkin didn't flinch. "As expected. Let them prepare. We'll be ready for them." She had been in command of many dangerous operations, but nothing compared to the magnitude of this mission. It wasn't just about the success of the mission. It was about sending a message. Earth was no longer just defending its home. It was fighting back, showing the galaxy that humanity would no longer sit idly by while others decided its fate. The fleet of human ships was small, but it was agile and effective. Unlike the vast, lumbering ships of the Vykoth, Earth's vessels were designed for speed, maneuverability, and precision strikes. They could move faster, strike harder, and retreat before an enemy could retaliate. The success of their previous skirmish against the Androsians had shown that Earth was capable of holding its own. And now they had to prove it once again. "Activate cloaking devices," Tarkin ordered, her voice calm but resolute. The Valor and the fleet's accompanying ships shimmered and became invisible, merging with the darkness of space. They would need the element of surprise to get close to the shipyard undetected. Minutes passed in tense silence, the only sounds the soft whirring of the ship's systems and the rhythmic heartbeat of humanity's collective hope. The fleet moved into position, just outside the range of the Vykoth's sensors. Soon, they would breach the outer defenses of the shipyard, and the real battle would begin. "I've got the target in sight," Lieutenant Eris reported. "Vykoth shipyard, just ahead. They've got a full fleet of patrol ships in orbit, along with automated defense turrets. Time to make our move," Tarkin said, her lips curling into a thin smile. The time for stealth was over. With a single command, the cloaking devices deactivated. The ships emerged from the void like a storm, engines roaring as they surged toward the Vykoth shipyard. The defenses on the shipyard reacted immediately, automated turrets firing a hail of energy bolts toward the oncoming fleet. But Earth's ships were faster, darting through the barrage of fire and returning precise counterattacks. The Valor unleashed its plasma cannons, the blasts cutting through the defenses of the nearest Vykoth patrol ship, reducing it to debris in a single strike. "Focus fire on their turrets," Captain Tarkin ordered. "Take out their defenses, then we'll target the shipyard itself." The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. The Vykoth patrol ships, though formidable, were no match for the speed and precision of the Earth fleet. Each shot, each maneuver, was calculated to inflict maximum damage. The Vykoth were skilled, but they were unprepared for the kind of guerrilla tactics that Earth had mastered. The human ships weaved in and out of the Vykoth's defensive lines, striking with lightning-fast speed before vanishing once again into the shadows. As the Vykoth shipyard defenses began to falter, Tarkin's eyes never left the battlefield. The crew was pushing the limits of their ships, but the target was in sight. "Captain, Their primary reactor is exposed, Eris called. One clean hit could cripple the whole shipyard. Tarkin nodded, her expression steely. Make it happen. All ships, concentrate fire on the reactor. This ends now. The Valor and its fleet surged forward, their cannons charging for one final strike. The Vakaf shipyard loomed ahead, the heart of their war production vulnerable. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The fate of the mission, the lives of her crew, and the future of Earth hung in the balance. The Valor fired. A beam of pure energy shot out, piercing through the defenses of the Vakaf shipyard and striking the reactor. The explosion was catastrophic. A massive shockwave rippled through the shipyard, sending debris scattering in all directions. The entire structure trembled, then collapsed in on itself, the reactor's core detonating in a burst of fire and energy that could be seen from miles away. Direct hit, Eris confirmed. Shipyard neutralized. The Vakoth will be unable to rebuild for weeks, if not months. The fleet didn't wait for the aftermath to unfold. The attack had been swift, effective, and devastating. As the remnants of the shipyard floated in the void, the human fleet began to retreat, slipping back into the shadows just as quickly as they had arrived. Back aboard the Valor, Captain Tarkin allowed herself a rare moment of relief. They had struck a major blow against one of the galaxy's most powerful factions, and they had done it on their own terms. The victory was a testament to humanity's resourcefulness, bravery, and resolve. But as the fleet made its way back to Earth, Tarkin knew the galaxy would not take this blow lying down. The Vakoth would regroup. Their allies would retaliate, and Earth's place in the stars would soon be contested once more. Humanity had made its statement, but the real war had only just begun. The silence that followed the destruction of the Vakoth shipyard was both a victory and a warning. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Earth had taken the fight to the heart of a powerful empire, and they had won. But the victory, as sweet as it was, carried a heavy weight. Humanity had not just struck a blow for survival. They had made themselves the target of every faction that held power in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the fleet's return was met with a mixture of celebration and uncertainty. The skies were filled with the triumphant roar of Earth's military ships as they landed, their crews exhausted but exhilarated. But in the hearts of Earth's leaders, a growing unease gnawed at them. The victory had been hard-earned, and they knew it was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. Captain Lara Tarkin stood on the bridge of the Valor, staring out at the Earth below. The victory against the Vakoth had been a much-needed boost to human morale, but the reality of what lay ahead was not lost on her. She had fought many battles, but none like this. Earth was now marked as an enemy of the galaxy's most powerful forces. They had drawn the attention of the Unari, the Vakoth, and the Androsians, each more dangerous than the last. No matter how many victories humanity achieved, they would always be outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. Captain, Lieutenant Eris called, breaking her reverie. You need to see this. Tarkin turned to face the officer, her expression unreadable. What's going on? Eris' fingers flew over the controls, bringing up a series of messages on the command screen. A diplomatic communique from the Vakoth High Council had just been intercepted. The contents were chilling. They're assembling a coalition, Eris said, his voice low. The Vakoth, Androsians, and Unari are uniting against us. This could be the start of a full-scale galactic war. Tarkin's jaw tightened. The idea had been a distant possibility, but now it was becoming an undeniable reality. The galaxy's powers were not going to take their losses lying down. They would come for Earth with everything they had. There would be no mercy. Gather the council, Tarkin ordered. We need to make preparations. Now. Within hours, Earth's most trusted military and scientific leaders convened at a secure command facility. General Alan Brooks, Dr. Miyamuro, and a dozen others who had been key to the success of Project Ascendant were present. The room was filled with tension, the weight of the situation bearing down on them. "We've kicked the hornet's nest," General Brooks said grimly, pacing in front of the room. "The Vakuth, the Androsians, and the Unari are mobilizing. They've put aside their rivalries to form a united front against Earth." Dr. Moreau stood up, her mind already racing through the possibilities. "We've learned how to fight back, but we can't afford to be reactive anymore. We need to continue to build our fleet, increase our alliances, and adapt our technology faster than they can." "I agree," Tarkin said, her voice cutting through the growing murmurs of concern. "But we can't afford to wait. If we let them build their forces, we're done. The galaxy will swallow us whole. We need to strike again before they're ready to mobilize." "What are you suggesting, Captain?" Brooks asked. Tarkin leaned forward, her gaze intense. "We hit them where it hurts. We go after their supply lines, their command centers, their most vital worlds. Every faction has a vulnerable spot. If we strike at their heart, we'll force them to divert their attention from Earth. We need to make them fear us." The room was still for a long moment, the implications of her words sinking in. Earth would be forced to take the war directly to the galaxy's most formidable forces, and there would be no turning back once they did. Finally, General Brooks spoke. "You're right, but we can't do it alone. We need allies. We need to establish more connections with other systems. We need to build a coalition of our own." "That's true," Dr. Moreau added. "The Vakuth and their allies are too powerful. We'll never defeat them if we're fighting alone." Tarkin nodded. "I'll make contact with the Terran colonies. We need to unite every faction we can. And in the meantime, we'll push forward with building our fleet and advancing our technology. The galaxy won't stop until we're crushed. But we're not going to make it easy for them." The council members agreed, their faces determined. The path ahead was uncertain, and the risks were unimaginable. But there was no turning back. Earth's fight for survival was just beginning, and the galaxy would know. Humanity would not go down without a fight. Outside, in the cold expanse of space, the gathering storm was already forming. The galaxy's most powerful forces were coming for Earth, but Captain Tarkin, General Brooks, and the rest of Earth's leadership knew this truth with unwavering certainty. Earth would not surrender. Humanity would fight, and they would make the galaxy remember who they were. As the conference ended and the council dispersed, Tarkin returned to her ship, her mind already racing ahead. The battle for Earth's future had only just begun, and she would lead her people through the storm, no matter the cost. The preparations were complete. Earth's military forces had expanded beyond anyone's expectations, and alliances with neighboring star systems had begun to solidify. But as the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the reality of the challenge ahead loomed larger than ever. The galaxy's greatest powers, the Vakuth, Androsians, and Unari, were unified, a coalition that had set its sights firmly on humanity's destruction. But they underestimated one thing. Earth had no intention of being erased from the stars. Captain Lara Tarkin stood on the bridge of the Valor, gazing out at the vastness of space. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was a small comfort, but it did nothing to ease the weight of the moment. Her eyes were sharp, unwavering. There was no room for fear now. Earth had made its stand, and now they had to see it through. The galaxy had drawn its lines in the sand, and so had humanity. "We've just received word," Lieutenant Ares announced, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "The Vakuth, Androsians, and Unari are assembling a massive fleet at the edge of the Krylon belt. It's their counteroffensive." Tarkin's hand tightened around the armrest of her chair. She had expected this. They would come for Earth with everything they had: bigger fleets, stronger weapons, and more ships than humanity could ever hope to face. But this time, it was different. Earth wasn't going to sit idly by and wait for the inevitable. "We've got the element of surprise on our side," she said, her voice resolute. "Our fleet is ready. We'll strike first. We take the fight to them." She turned to her crew, each of them a pillar of strength in this fight. The Valor was a beacon of humanity's resilience, and together they had become something more than just soldiers and commanders. They were a united force, driven by the simple but unshakable desire to survive. "Lieutenant Eris, send the signal to our allies," she ordered. "We begin the assault in 6 hours. Make sure they're ready." As Eris set to work, Tarkin surveyed the gathered officers. General Brooks, Dr. Moreau, and the others had gathered in the command room, their faces reflecting a mixture of resolve and anxiety. No one spoke as the countdown to war began. They all knew the odds, but they also knew that survival depended on action, not hesitation. The battle plan was bold, a daring move that could either end in victory or extinction. Earth's fleet would move in close to the Vakith Androsian fleet, engaging them in a series of feints and surprise attacks to cripple their command structure. Meanwhile, a smaller group of ships would slip behind enemy lines, targeting critical supply depots and weapon caches. If they could cut off the enemy's ability to replenish their forces, they might just be able to tip the scales in their favor. As Tarkin ran through the final details, her mind flicked back to the beginning of it all. The moment humanity had learned that the galaxy wasn't just full of potential allies, but predators. They had been dismissed then, belittled. But now, Earth was anything but helpless. The fleet moved into position. The vast emptiness of space became the arena for their final confrontation. The Valor, with its sleek, formidable design, led the charge, its engines blazing as it cut through the stars toward the enemy. Behind it, the rest of Earth's fleet followed, forming a line of ships determined to make history. The first shots were exchanged just as the fleets locked into position. The battle erupted in a flash of light and sound, plasma bolts and energy beams arcing through the darkness. The Vakith and Androsians were formidable, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and evolve. Earth's fleet darted and weaved through the chaos, its ships a blur of precision strikes and quick retreats. Captain Tarkin stood at the helm, her focus unshakable. "Keep the pressure on them," she barked. "No retreat. No surrender." Every ship in Earth's fleet carried the weight of their home planet with it. Each strike, each maneuver, was an act of defiance. For every Vakith ship they brought down, for every Androsian cruiser that crumbled, Earth's message became clearer. Humanity would not bow. But the battle was far from one-sided. The enemy responded with overwhelming force, their massive warships closing in on Earth's smaller, more agile fleet. The Valor took a direct hit from an Androsian dreadnought's main cannon, the force of the blast shaking the entire ship. Sparks flew from the console, and alarms blared as systems went offline. Tarkin's jaw tightened, but she never flinched. "Report," she demanded. "We've lost primary power to the aft engines," Captain Eris replied. "We're losing maneuverability." "Damn it," Tarkin muttered. But even as the battle raged, she didn't lose focus. "Get us back in the fight. We've got one shot at this. We can't afford to let them regroup." In the midst of chaos, Earth's strike force hit their target, the enemy's central command vessel, a massive, heavily fortified cruiser. The Valor took a steadying breath as it turned toward the cruiser, delivering a final devastating blow to its reactor core. The explosion rocked the battlefield, sending a shockwave of energy rippling across space. With the enemy's command structure in chaos and their forces thrown into disarray, the remaining ships of the Vakith, Androsians, and Unaried began to retreat. The tide of battle had shifted. In the aftermath, the galaxy would remember this day. Humanity had fought back with every ounce of strength it had, and the galaxy had learned to respect their resilience. The war was far from over, but Earth had made its mark. And in that moment, the universe knew one thing for certain: humanity would never be dismissed again.